You know that feeling? When everyone else has gone to sleep, and the world gets quiet and suddenly you become very aware that you are completely alone. Most people never have to sit with that feeling for long. They close their eyes and drift off, safe in their beds, with the comfort of knowing that when the sun comes up, everything will be fine. But for some people, the night is not a place to rest. The night is where they work. And on certain shifts, in certain places, they see things that no one ever talks about in the daylight. Daniel had been working night security for 6 years by the time this happened. He wasn't the type to get scared easily. 6 years of empty warehouses, dark corridors, flickering lights, you get used to it. You stop jumping at shadows. You learn to tell the difference between the wind rattling a gate and something actually moving. He thought he knew the difference. The industrial estate he worked at had 4 large warehouses A, B, C, and D. His job was simple: patrol each building once every 2 hours, check the locks, check the perimeter, radio in at midnight and again at 4 am. Nothing complicated. For the first 3 months, nothing unusual happened. Then came the night of the 14th of March. Daniel arrived for his shift at 10 p.m. as usual. Signed in at the gate. Got his radio. Started his first patrol. Warehouse A clear. Warehouse B clear. Warehouse C, he noticed the side door was slightly open. Not broken in. Just not fully shut. He closed it, made a note, moved on. Warehouse D clear. He radioed in at midnight. All good. At around 1:30 in the morning, he was sitting in the guard post drinking tea when he saw something on the CCTV monitor. There was another guard walking through Warehouse B. Daniel leaned forward. The figure was wearing a uniform, dark trousers, light shirt, just like his. Moving slowly, methodically, the way you move when you're doing a patrol. Calm. Unhurried. Daniel frowned. He was the only guard that night. The other guard, James, had called in sick. Daniel had been told explicitly, "You're alone tonight." He picked up his radio. "Control, this is Daniel at the estate. I'm seeing movement inside Warehouse B on camera. Is there another guard on site tonight? Over." A pause. Then negative. "Daniel, you're the only one on site. Over." Daniel stared at the screen. The figure was still walking. Now, a reasonable person might think intruder. Call the police. Stay in the post. Don't go in. And that's exactly what Daniel started to do. He picked up his phone. But then the figure stopped walking. And turned. And looked directly at the camera. Daniel said the face was wrong. He couldn't explain it better than that, just wrong. Not monstrous. Not obviously inhuman, just deeply, wrongly off. Like a face that had been assembled by something that had seen faces before, but didn't quite understand them. The eyes were too wide. The smile was too wide. And it just stood there, looking at the camera. For a full 30 seconds. Then it walked out of frame. Daniel did not go into Warehouse B. He stayed in the guard post, every light on, radio in hand, until sunrise. He filed a report. Management reviewed the footage. The footage from that timestamp showed nothing. An empty warehouse. No figure. No movement. Daniel quit the following week. He told his replacement about what he saw. The replacement laughed it off. 3 months later, that replacement resigned too. He never said why. Amara had wanted to be a nurse since she was 12 years old. By the time she was 26, she was working the night shift at a private hospital in Nairobi. She loved the work, genuinely loved it. She was good at staying calm, good at dealing with difficult situations. Her colleagues always said she was the most level-headed person on the ward. What happened in her second year changed that. The ward she worked on had 10 rooms. Rooms 1 through 10, in a straight corridor. Most nights, not all rooms were occupied. On quiet nights, she might have only 3 or 4 patients, elderly patients, hosts at jury recoveries, people who just needed monitoring. Room 7 had been empty for about 2 weeks when it started. The first night, she heard the call button from room 7 go off at 2 a.m. A soft, steady beeping from the nurse's station. She looked at the board. Room 7. She walked down the corridor, pushed open the door, and turned on the light. Empty. Bed made. No one there. She checked the call button, it had somehow been pressed. She reset it and went back to the station, thinking it was a malfunction. It went off again at 3:15. She went back. Empty again. She reported it to maintenance. They checked it the next morning and said the button was fine. The second night, she didn't hear the call button. Instead, she heard something else. She was doing her rounds at around 1 a.m., walking the corridor, checking on her patients. As she passed room 7, she heard very faintly, from inside, the sound of breathing. She stopped. She stood outside the door and listened. Slow, steady, deep breathing. The kind of breathing you hear from someone in a very deep sleep. She pushed the door open. The room was dark. She reached for the light switch and turned it on. The room was empty. The bed was exactly as she'd left it, flat, made, undisturbed. But the breathing had stopped the exact moment the light came on. She stood in the doorway for a long moment. She told herself it was the ventilation system. The hospital had old vents, sounds traveled strangely. She told herself it was nothing. She went back to the station. At 3 a.m., she looked up from her desk and noticed the door to room 7 was open. She had closed it when she left. She was certain she had closed it. She didn't go back down the corridor that night. She did her rounds from the other direction, skipping room 7, telling herself she would report everything in the morning. But the morning shift nurse, a woman named Grace, came in at 6 a.m., and before Amara could say a word, Grace stopped in the doorway to the station and said, "Who's the patient in room 7? I didn't see them on the board." Amara went cold. "There's no patient in room 7, she said slowly. "It's been empty for 2 weeks." Grace looked at her. "Then who is the woman sitting on the bed?" They both walked down the corridor together. They pushed open the door to room 7. Empty. Bed made. No one there. Room 7 was permanently closed the following month. The official reason given was that it was being converted to a storage room. Neither Amara nor Grace ever talked about it again. But Amara requested a transfer to a different ward 3 weeks later. And she has never worked a night shift since. Samuel had been driving trucks for 11 years. Nairobi to Mombasa. Mombasa back to Nairobi. The same road, hundreds of times. He knew every bend, every town, every stretch of tarmac the way other people know their own neighborhoods. The Nairobi-Mombasa highway at 2 in the morning is a particular kind of lonely. It's dark in a way cities never are. The road disappears into blackness ahead of you, and your headlights feel like the only light left in the world. Hours pass. Nothing but road. Samuel had made peace with that loneliness long ago, but on a Tuesday night in August, something happened that he has never made peace with. He was somewhere past Tita and about halfway to Mombasa when his headlights caught something on the side of the road. A figure. Standing still. Facing the road. A woman. She was wearing a red dress. Standing on the left shoulder of the highway. Completely still. No broken down car nearby. No other people. Just a woman in a red dress, alone on the highway at 2:30 in the morning. Samuel's first instinct was concern. This didn't look right. A woman alone out here, at this hour, something had to be wrong. He slowed down, pulled over ahead of her, and rolled down his window. "Madam, are you okay? Do you need help?" The woman walked towards the truck. She was young, mid-20s maybe. Calm. Too calm for someone standing alone on a highway in the middle of the night. No tears. No urgency. She just looked up at him with a small, quiet smile and said she was headed to Mombasa. Something in Samuel's stomach turned. He couldn't say exactly what it was. Just a feeling, a heavy, animal feeling that something was deeply wrong, but he looked at her standing there in the darkness, alone, and he pushed the feeling down. He unlocked the passenger door. She climbed in, settled into the seat, folded her hands in her lap. Samuel pulled back onto the road. For the first few minutes, neither of them spoke. He asked her name, she gave one, softly. He asked what she was doing out there. She said her car had broken down, and she'd been waiting for help. It sounded reasonable. He told himself it was reasonable. But things started to feel wrong almost immediately. She didn't look around the way people do when they get into an unfamiliar vehicle. She didn't look out the window. She just sat perfectly still, hands folded, staring straight ahead at the dark road. About 20 minutes in, Samuel glanced at her in the passenger seat. Her feet were not touching the floor. Not raised slightly, not sitting with her legs crossed. Her feet were simply not touching the floor. She was sitting at the normal height, in a normal position, but between the soles of her shoes and the floor of the truck, there was a gap. A clear, visible gap. Samuel's hands went cold on the steering wheel. He looked back at the road. He told himself he was tired. He told himself his eyes were playing tricks. He drove for another 10 minutes without looking at her. Then he heard her voice, very quietly. "You can stop here," she said. He looked over. She was looking at him now. That same small, quiet smile. "I'll walk from here," she said. Samuel slowed the truck, pulled to the shoulder. They were in the middle of nowhere, no town, no building, no light for kilometers in either direction. "Here," he said. "Yes," she said. "Thank you for the ride." She opened the door, stepped out. He watched in the side mirror as she walked away, back into the darkness from which she'd come, that red dress disappearing into the black. Samuel sat there for a long moment. Then he reached over and put his hand on the passenger seat, because his instinct was to confirm that she had been there, that it had been real. The seat was cold. Not cool the way a seat gets after someone leaves. Cold, deeply, wrongly cold, the way metal gets in the middle of the night in January. Like no one had sat there in hours. Samuel drove the rest of the road to Mombasa without stopping once. He called his wife when he arrived, just to hear her voice. He still drives the Nairobi-Mombasa route. He has to, it's his livelihood. But he no longer stops for anyone on the side of the road. Not anymore. Not on that highway. Not at night.